Hey guys, this is KSP with Tape, and today you join me for episode 12 of KSP A New World, and we start off with just a quick test of this crossfeed thing. MechJeb isn't working properly, so I wasn't sure that the crossfeed was working because it wasn't giving me the right Delta V readout, so I was just doing a quick test on this probe, which is kind of one of the main things in today's episode, which will be bound for Eve, because we are being paid once again to go to another planet, and this is going to be quite fun. Similar probe to last time, just with a different landing profile, basically, and a different landing payload. But anyway, I'm actually going to need a bigger rocket, just because it's quite a wide probe, so I thought I might as well use 2.5 meter parts. And because it's nice to have quite a bit of Delta V, because of just Eve's quite a heavy, quite a massive world, so gravity is quite high. So it's always good to have a little extra Delta V for orbital maneuvers. Not that there will be a huge amount of orbital maneuvers, and it's pretty, easy to get there, but it's mainly because I need bigger fairings. So yeah, this is just basically bankrupting my space program, buying all these new parts. So that was fun. But yeah, this is the mission. This was quite an expensive rocket. You can see it's quite, well, not a big 2.5 meter rocket if you've done a lot of stuff, but compared to my, previous rockets in this series, it's pretty big. It was pretty expensive, but this this mission is very high paying because, well, part of it is to land on Eve, and if you're using deadly re-entry, landing on Eve can be pretty difficult because it has a very thick atmosphere, it has high gravity, you'll be moving very fast, and you'll probably burn up. So I'm not, I don't think I'm going to get all of my probe to the bottom of, to the ground of Eve, because, well, it has landing legs, and I suspect that they'll burn off, so hopefully I'll land somewhere flat, so it'll just be okay. But we'll take a better look at the a better look at the probe in a bit. But yeah, that first stage is detached. That was a very capable first stage. I do quite like this rocket. It's quite simple, despite it flipping out because of Ferrum Aerospace not really calculating drag on the fairings correctly. But yeah, let's just push ourselves into orbit. This upper stage was quite big, but I thought I might as well use a bigger upper stage, just so I have, definitely enough fuel to go all the way to Eve, because this is going to do most of the burning to Eve as well. But there is a pretty capable transfer module on the probe, which is more, it's again more fuel than I need. But in this series, I tend to do that because, I mean, I can't quick load, I can't quick load, so, it's all or nothing, and this was a very expensive mission, but the payout could easily pay for the mission. I mean, this rocket and probe, I think, together cost about 30,000, and then buying all the technology cost probably about another 30,000. But yeah, you can see I've got my encounter. I just left all this in at 4 times time accelerate these, tweaking the maneuvers, because I like to leave it in, because sometimes it can be just useful to see some of the maneuvers being done, and maybe it's a little hard to see at 4 times time accelerate, but I'm sure there are actual tutorials. But maybe if you're looking at this intently, you can see some decently what I'm doing, just if I'm coming in below the planet, you just burn upwards, depending on, what side of the sun you are. But as a general rule of thumb, just, if you're coming in below the planet, burn upwards. If you're coming in too close to the planet, burn away from the planet. But anyway, yeah, let's just do the burn. And I have left this all at 4 times time accelerate. But I did get a nice shot of the Kerbal Space Center and the island runway flying over here. I do like looking down at them. It is quite nice. It would be nice to have some well, just some more launch complexes maybe, but I don't know if that's really in the game, in the plan for the game. But yeah, anyway, let's finish off this burn, because I went a little off-center, because this doesn't really have a big reaction wheel on it, because a reaction wheel is just a waste of mass. Although I do like to use them sometimes. And you may be looking at Eve just now and thinking, it does look a little different. Yeah, it's because of the clouds more, and it does look, it's a real purple haze. I do very much like it. But yeah, let's just put this into a solar orbit or Kerbola orbit or whatever you want to call it. Add an alarm, and anyway, move on to the next mission. This is oh goddamn, I wish I could read the smaller text. I don't know what the name of this Kerbal is, because I've completely forgotten, and the text on my post-production screen is only half resolution because it's playing back raw footage basically. But anyway, this is a mission bound for Minmus. We're going to throw away those boosters. They explode. I really need to put some Separatrons on those, which I will do in future. I'll just save that in the sub-assemblies. Another Python, what is this? Python 2 vehicle with the bigger boosters. If you're keeping track, if you're a launch vehicle nerd like me, you like to name them and know what's doing. I haven't come up with a name for the bigger one yet. Maybe Titan or something. Although I want to save Titan for something truly gigantic. And I'm not talking 3.5 meter parts. I have KW rocketry installed. I'm talking 5 meter parts. Titan will be a very big rocket, and because we're going to be doing a lot of lathe missions, there's going to be a lot of big ass vehicles. Anyway, we're cruising on into orbit, heading to Minmus, hopefully, to perform some I think some surface, some surface samples. No, some EVA reports on the surface. Yeah, we will be going back to the Eve probe this this episode. We won't actually be going to Eve this episode, but we will have some course corrections and things. But I did realize at this point I didn't put any solar panels on this, and a very long mission to Minmus. It will require energy, electrical energy, because I am using tech life support, of course. So we would have lost this Kerbal, so I decided to try and bring as much of this rocket back as possible. I actually do make the decision to ditch that that second stage, because it's much better to lose the stage than probably lose the Kerbal, because that's a pretty expensive thing. So yeah, I'm just going to deploy that chute and hopefully get as much of that as possible. We did lose a couple of the side tanks from this lander on the re-entry, because I went into 4 times time accelerator at high dynamic pressure. But yeah, that was a failure. I just me being stupid again. I often forget solar panels, and I am really bankrupting this corporation. I mean, that was a loss of about 13 grand or something. I think it was about 13 grand, yeah, or maybe a little more. And then obviously buying all those big parts for my rocket for Eve. But that is a high-paying mission at Eve, so we should be fine. But anyway, this is testing those. This is another mission, just a quick one. Well, this is pretty much going to hopefully cover most of the cost of that failed mission, just testing those Rockermax engines on the side. So this little bottom stage will be cruising to orbit. Not cruising to orbit, cruising to altitude. And I will just speed through this now, because it's, you know, it's just a simple burn to altitude and burn to the correct velocity. So I'm making sure I don't go too fast, but that's a waste of fuel and a waste of, well, I shouldn't be going that fast anyway. And I'm going to tip over a little bit just so I avoid the Space Center with this bottom stage. I did a little overfuel it, but it's always best to overfuel and underfuel. And this is a decently high-paying mission for testing those engines at this speed, which you will see now as we separate back into 1 times time accelerator. This is a very nice scene as the second stage is still burning, and we still escape it because it's so much higher thrust, because these engines have a very high thrust to weight ratio, and this is a pretty light payload. But anyway, I'm skipping ahead through the descent, but it was just fairly standard descent. But this was quite interesting because I accidentally overburned, cancelled the parachute, because I keep hitting Z instead of X a lot in this episode, actually. And then we lose the fuel tank and the engine, so we get a little less money getting that probe back. So, you know, it's fine. It still covers the mission. We get a lot of, a decent amount of money out of it. I've forgotten how much we exactly got, but you could have read it just then. I think it was about 10 grand or so, and we got 1,000 up front, so it's pretty good, and a little bit of science. And how much do we get for those parts? Just a little under 1,000, so not bad. Anyway, because of those missions failing, we're having to, you know, take stock of new mission ideas, and so we're moving on to this this Eve probe doing a quick plane change maneuver, although it's not that quick because it's, you know, traveling around the sun. So we're going to go 20 days ahead. I don't have any, oh no, 30 days ahead. I don't have any missions that super need completing in that time, so I thought I might as well. And then I'm going to do another mission before I arrive at Eve, just because, you know, it's not fun if you just skip through 3 years and, you know, like, oh, who cares? Obviously it doesn't take 3 years to get to Eve, but, you know, I like a little bit of realism, you know, missions in between missions, just some fun. It just makes it fun for me. And maybe you're crazy about scheduling too. Talking of scheduling, there's a scheduled SpaceX launch. That was a terrible segue, but yeah, I'm actually looking at the schedule right now, the SpaceX CRS-6 launch, which I'm recording this on Monday, when that launch is hopefully happening to the International Space Station, and they're taking another landing attempt at the landing, the drone ship in the ocean, and that'll be hopefully really awesome, hopefully successful. And I woke up today thinking, yeah, the world could change seriously for the better today, so I really hope that goes well. Hopefully if the launch goes off without a hitch, we will know by the time this goes up if they have reused the first stage of a rocket, which is just crazy to me. I mean, well, I mean, I grew up in the shuttle era, although I never really knew a huge amount about all this sort of stuff when I was much younger. But yeah, I did grow up in the late shuttle era, the kind of last third where they were just building the International Space Station, because it was kind of 3 segments, and each segment was about 10 years split up by an accident. So there was Challenger, and then there was Columbia and things, and you know, that was interesting, but that was always very expensive, and it was never, you know, the big hype and stuff. So but yeah, but SpaceX, I think, is really bringing some hype back to the space industry. But anyway, yeah, we just burned out of that bottom stage, which will hopefully just stay in a heliocentric orbit. Although it's not a helio, I think helio counts for this sun as well, because it's not like helio just refers to our sun, is it? I thought it was maybe the composite. But anyway, it looks like we're doing pretty good. Well, I want to bring it a little closer to Eve, that periaps, so I just tend to ramble a bit. But yeah, I am really looking forward to the CRS-6 launch. And yeah, it's just interesting space stuff. But anyway, I do tend to go off on tangents, but I thought I might as well, while it was just a simple burn, you can see what's going on, and just as well as I could if I was commentating it. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to do a retrograde burn, I think, to, pull my periaps in. However, this was incorrect. And then I keep hitting, again, I did that, where instead of hitting X to cancel the throttle, I hit Z to, increase the throttle, and that screwed me up and lost me some fuel, which is annoying. I think I do it 3 times this episode, and I've done it twice already. But anyway, yeah, this is probably my last deep space probe with small solar panel, like small non-articulating solar panels on it, because, well, I've unlocked some better ones, but this was, they weren't in the budget for this, because I spent about 30 grand on research, just to make the rocket work. So, I was building it hoping it would fit on a smaller rocket, but it just wouldn't fit inside the fairings, and it was quite heavy, so I thought I might as well use a bigger rocket. And I do like, I've been meaning to move up to bigger rockets, and it was in the budget to use a bigger rocket, really, because there's a lot of money for this mission. I think it was something like probably total about 200 grand. No, it's actually more like 250 with all the side goals. But anyway, let's set that alarm so I don't forget, and try this mission again. This mission to Minmus. I think this is Milbury. It's a different astronaut, because I thought the other one needed some time off after that embarrassing failure. But anyway, yeah, another Python 2 vehicle. Exact same thing, just with some solar panels and some solid rocket boosters on the... well, some smaller solid rocket boosters on the big boosters to separate them, as you saw there. But it's all at 4 times time accelerate, so you can't see it brilliantly. But yeah, it was just to make sure they clear the rocket. But yeah, so it's just obviously cruising into orbit. Fairly standard, and this was not a terrible launch. I mean, I've started... trying to go flatter into the atmosphere, because I'm having trouble tipping over, as I've said before, in Ferrum Aerospace, because it often flips out the rockets, and I'm very cautious about that, because, well, there's no escape systems on these rockets. They're all trapped within the fairings, which is probably foolish, but as I, create different vehicles, I'll probably start creating some escape systems, since it's very expensive to lose Kerbals, and not good. I don't like losing Kerbals. I haven't lost any so far. But, hopefully I won't lose too many, because I know in Solar Civilization I lost quite a lot, mainly in shuttle crashes, because that shuttle flew like a dog. I imagine dogs don't fly particularly well. I couldn't think of a good analogy, but yeah, flew like a dog pretty much makes sense. Flies about as well as the box it came in. But in Kerbal Space Program, the box flies pretty well, as pointed out by Scott Manley. Anyway, here's a thing I was doing. The moon was in the way, basically, as I was trying to get this encounter. And I did get an encounter flying past the moon, but obviously that's a little tenuous because of floating point error, because we're using very big numbers, so they have to be stored as floating point numbers. And that tends to be fairly inaccurate because of rounding errors and such like. Things I could explain, but not very well, and I would probably need a little more time. But yeah, so this was foolish. I should have waited a little longer, but I didn't want to risk it, because I wasn't entirely sure how much time I had in the life support. This is actually a very different vehicle to the Capollos I've flown before. This is Capollo 10. The last one was Capollo 9 in this episode, which failed. But yeah, I'm moving them up. I do iterate on the vehicles, and this is probably my best one. It has a much bigger science payload. It's got a much bigger life support payload, and just a generally better rocket. And a little less fuel, actually, because it doesn't need that much fuel. Anyway, I screwed all this up, and was just very foolish about all these things. But it was like, I have a lot of fuel, and I was kind of running out of time because I had a lot of things to do. So, yeah, so I basically just gunned it and just tried to get my encounter nice and quickly. And I did. It's not hard to get around Minmus, and I know I have a lot of fuel, so, I usually pack them with a lot of fuel just in case something goes wrong. And because I was actually going to skip around the surface, but because of how much I screwed up, I decided skipping around the surface in the rocket, in the lander, probably wouldn't be a great idea, especially given that I have an RCS pack. But yeah, a little plane change, not too bad. Screwing, basically just, fixing what the moon screwed up for me. And I actually was on an escape trajectory there, which probably wasn't a particularly good idea, because if I suddenly lost power, he would be lost forever, and I'd have no way of rescuing him. I mean, I think he has maybe 10 days life support, so, I mean, I need a very big rocket to go and rescue him, and it probably wouldn't be cost effective, actually. It'd probably be cheaper to lose the Kerbal, but, obviously I would see what I could do. But this is early days of space travel where there isn't a lot of redundancies. But yeah, let's try and get ourselves in orbit, and then put ourselves on the correct trajectory and things. Yeah, as you can see, this stage burned out early, which it isn't supposed to do. It's supposed to get me into orbit around Minmus, but obviously I screwed up because I was foolish and, you know, too brash and fast and things. But it's fine. So let's bring ourselves down. Annoyingly, it's on the dark side, but I do have the mod that allows me to boost the ambient light, so you get a better viewing experience. Better than mine, as I've said, the post-production view when I'm watching this back and commentating over it is not very good because it's a half resolution and it blurs out all the time. Because, I mean, Sony Vegas is having to deal with raw footage and just processing all of that. But anyway, yeah, this pilot is actually, I think, one of my level 1 pilots, so I'm hoping to level up to the kind of the level of Jeb, who's level 2 right now. Because there's all that experience and stuff in the game now. And the pilot before was actually a very inexperienced pilot. I wanted to get him some level so I have more than 2 really good pilots. But, you know, it wasn't to be. But anyway, let's bring ourselves down around here. Just touch down on the surface. I do very much like this. I think it's called, like I've forgotten exactly the name of this place. It's like, it's like Bilba's a hole or something. I don't know. It's a really nice looking crater. It's like a valley that leads into the flatlands, and that's a really nice. One of the nice things about Minmus. I'm always a little blown away by KSP's beauty. Like, obviously the resolutions aren't amazing, but just the kind of what it implies, you know, the being on another world, and when you add stars and skies and clouds and stuff like that. Shot on Duna last episode was really nice. Just the dark clouds on the horizon and the sun. It's a really just nice looking game. I mean, obviously it could be higher resolution and things, but I like the way it looks. I like how it's kind of almost a little bit cartoony. But yeah, it is a fairly beautiful game, and you can enhance its beauty with mods and things, but, you know, if you have the RAM. Well, it's not about having the RAM, it's about, what do you call it? 32-bit KSP, because 64-bit doesn't really work that well. I always thought, I've never used to have problems, but I was doing some stuff recently where I did. But anyway, we've taken a few reports that I just kind of was talking over, but anyway, let's just put our flag down. Second landing. We're in the lowlands, as our surface sample said, and yes, we did take a surface sample because we upgraded the science center, which I didn't realize that was what allowed us to take surface samples, but we can take surface samples now, so I've got a lot more missions planned. The thing now is I used to just, like, do loads of missions to the moon and stuff, but now it's more like you have to find a mission that'll pay you to go there. So most of it's like taking surveys, so you can only go to some places. But luckily the missions give you science as well, so taking actual samples and things aren't too necessary these days. But I like to bring some scientific equipment, and this was, this Apollo 10 as I'm putting down on the flag. This is actually a very good vehicle because it has those actual proper science payloads. It has a thermometer and mystery goo, which I'll get the reports from them in space because well, then I can fly around the spacecraft much more easily. But anyway, we've got some surface some EVA reports from the surface to take because well, that is our mission to get here. I'm just going to cut through all the flying because it does take me a while to find them by flying. The first two actually weren't that bad finding the places to take the EVA reports from, but the last one did take me a very long time. Just because it's very hard to navigate when you don't have a spacecraft, when it's just you know, the Kerbal. But anyway, I found the first one, and we got that, and we completed our first objective. Or did we? Or do we need to go a little further into the zone, into the danger zone? Yeah, I think we did. So we just go a little further into the zone until we're actually entering the the zone of where we're taking the report from. Oh no, actually, yeah, we actually lost a lot of these 2 bits of footage. I just remembered. Basically, the game crashed right now, which is only, like, I think pretty much the second time this whole series. But yeah, that means Bandicam lost a little bit of footage, which was us taking 2 of those reports, but it was just EVA reports on the surface. And this is the last one, so you can see I did actually take them, and it's just a matter of taking them, and then that readout tells you you're collecting them, and then you get paid. And I think that was all the missions completed, because I completed the other 2, so those were the side missions, and they all completed to, you know, conglomerate to give me that main mission, which gives me like 90 grand. But anyway, I cut ahead from flying, you know, back because it was fairly boring. And this episode's already pretty long. So yeah, we're just gonna fly back to Kerbin now. That's just pretty much our final thing in the episode. And you can see how beautiful this is. It's like, I think it's like Bobka's Pit or something, and it does look just really nice. It leads onto some of those smaller flats, so it's really nice looking bit of Minmus. I do very much like it. But yeah, that was a little shame that I lost the footage, but I hope it was well, it was just me flying around the surface trying to find the zones and taking a few EVA reports, sort of thing. But yeah, it's actually basically what you just saw, just in a different position. But yeah, I do like those. Just you get to spend a bit of time on the surface, and I'm going to take some rovers in the future so that I have a proper targeting system, and it's just a little faster to move over the surface, because I hate having to rely on RCS, because I often run out of fuel and slam my Kerbals into the surface. But anyway, we grabbed that science data out of the spacecraft so that we can put it in the pod and bring it back safely. But now we need to do a quick retrograde burn, because we weren't in a very good position, but it's fine. We have a ton of fuel, as I've said, and we could have used actually this spacecraft to go and find those places on the surface, and I'll remember that in future, but right now it was an impossibility. But I did love this shot, looking at Kerbin from above with all those clouds. I rarely get to see it like this. You rarely come in from a really steep polar orbit like this. On the SpaceX webcast has just started. Let's hope that this video isn't too much longer. Oh, I am very much looking forward to that. It's been like the highlight of my day. Anyway, we get dinged by the surface module on the way past, which was a little annoying. But we do get to see it light up a bit. Oh no, it flies back past us. But anyway, we're coming in very fast. I didn't slow down at all this time. But now we get to see the Apollo 10 probe fly past, and it's on fire and it explodes on the way past. I should have slowed that down, I'm sorry, but it wasn't that impressive. It was just that explosion you saw there, basically. I don't know why it was called probe. It was probe because it had MechJeb on it. Yeah, that was just my service module, of course. But it did look very cool, streaking past all, bound in fire. And we'll deploy our chute and just, go to the surface very quickly at 4 times time accelerate. And then in a second we'll move into 1 times time accelerate in the video so that you can see how I wrap this up. Yeah, and there we go, just touching down in the night. A lot of this has been in the night. I'm very sorry for that, but that was just poor timing, I guess. But yeah, I think we've got all the science we need, so we'll just recover this. And we did get a lot of science because we completed that mission about finding the EVA reports on the surface, and we got all those mystery goo units and all that stuff. So hopefully that'll be quite nice. Well, quite a lot of science. Yeah, there's 230 or something, I think that says, and then a little extra. So we're just gonna go and spend that. I'm gonna unlock I don't know, maybe some bigger pods, I think is what I go for. And then buy some stuff off screen, because that was quite well paying. So we're back in we got a little bit more money while we wait for that probe to get to Eve. Buy lots of coffee and things. And he's leveled up, which is nice, to level 2. Yeah, so let's just get some bigger pods. I think I'm gonna go for bigger pods, and then some very small engines and just fine control type things, because those look quite cool. So yeah, and then after I've researched them, I'm gonna say this has been KSP with Tape. I hope you've enjoyed this. I will see you next time.